Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Jerry.
Betty White, our golden girl, is hanging here with us, and we're back for episode 85 of the Arner Adventures podcast.
You guys, we have a Spark in Our Lives episode today, and we are elated to share this combo with you because we are big fans of this person. But first, let's get to our review of the week.
Our review this week comes from Rodney at 98. The Arner Adventures podcast is the perfect balance between minimalism and flexibility. With practical tips and a welcoming approach, Shannon and Jerry empower listeners to design the life they want. Inspiring.
Well,
Wow, Rodney at 98.
That is really, really nice.
That is so
really
nice. And, you know, we love that you are picking up what we're putting down, as the kids say.
Are they still saying that?
No.
Oh.
No.
That was like the 70s or the 80s, I think. Well, it's probably coming back around. So you're putting out what you're, how was that?
Picking up what we're putting down.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Rodney. Thank
Like
you so much, everybody, for even taking a moment to give us a 5-star review or rating. It means so much to us. You are a spark in our lives for doing it, and it helps to serve us up to other people who may be interested in content like ours. So please, if you're listening to this, take a sweet moment. We'll wait and go and give us a 5-star review or rating in the podcast platform you're listening to us on.
Talk about inspiring. We can't wait to tell you who we got today. Our guest today is Dan Whalen. Dan is a cookbook author of our favorite cookbooks.
I mean, our favorite cookbooks. And we have a whole story about how we got introduced to Dan, not even real, because our podcast is the first time we were actually introduced to him. But how Dan Whalen came into our world, we have a whole story about it. You are going to be just drooling by the end of this episode because of the food content. I mean, his cookbooks, like the tots and the nachos and all of it, his cookbooks are amazing, and they're a big part of our life. And we can't wait for you to hear this conversation.
His cookbooks will be your favorite as well when we're done with this episode. So are we ready to get to the convo?
Yep, let's get to it.
Guest today is someone we have admired and been a fan of for a few years, and his work is definitely a spark in our lives.
Our guest is Dan Whalen. Dan is a cookbook author and blogger at thefoodinmybeard. He's been blogging for over 15 years and has created thousands of recipes. He's known for comfort food mashups and has written books about nachos, tater tots, our favorite, s'mores, all kinds of comfort food. He's appeared on Guy's Grocery Games, Rachel Ray, The Today Show, and CBS Sunday Morning, which is how we found him.
That's how we found.
Most of his time as a blogger has been in Boston, but he's also lived in Bermuda, Columbus, Ohio, and is currently in Atlanta with his wife, Georgina, and dog, Frida. Dan, thank you for being here.
Thank you both for having me. This is great. And that was a perfect little rundown. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we're going to give a little spiel before we get into our questions. First of all, I got to know about Frida. Is Frida after Frida Kahlo?
You know, it was, many different inspirations behind the name. But that's definitely one of the main ones. But
okay. We love that.
We picked her up. She's a rescue, and we got her when she was only, like 2 months or so, 6 weeks. We didn't name her. They had called her Sassafras. And
okay.
But she's so young, it didn't really matter. And we went through a few different names. And once we had her for one night before we had decided. And once we said Frida, we're like, that's it. We're keeping it.
We love that. Well, we adopted Betty White, and her name was Blossom, which was just terrible. But then of course, she's white and she's a pity, and they have such a bad reputation. So we thought, well, if we name her Betty White, everybody will love her. So yeah, we love good dog names, and Frida's definitely a good dog name. Well, I think it would be fun to talk about how we ran across Dan and how all of this worked out. So back in 2017, we had this major shift in our lifestyle. We sold all of our stuff, our house and stuff, and we went tiny. So in our tiny home, we had, the only way we were really cooking was like a stovetop thing and a toaster oven. And one day we didn't have, we still don't have cable, but we were able to watch the CBS Sunday Morning thing through some kind of streaming thing. So one Sunday morning, and you're on CBS Sunday Morning, and I'm pretty sure it was the Tots book. I think that was what got.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the Tot, they come on, they do this whole interview with you, and at the end of it, Jerry and I had also been like, we're not going to buy things for a while, blah blah blah. Well, we bought the book, and it came, and we did. I mean, we've probably cooked everything in this Tots book, but we did all of it in our toaster oven. It's kind of like even though we have more space, we have a regular oven now, we still do a lot of cooking in our toaster oven, but all of the things that we do out of your cookbooks, we still use our toaster oven because we feel like it kind of has a
that's so nice. I love that.
So Jerry, of course, is a big Tots fan. We love Tots, but that got us into all things Dan Whalen. And so we have all your books now. And we're so excited that you're here to talk about it.
Yeah. But the Tots book is always the go-to, I think. I reference that.
I mean, just the perfect shape and the feeling of the cover. When I saw it, they had told me that's what they were going to do. And I was like, okay, I don't really get it. I actually was on site for the photo shoot one day, but they shot for 5 or 6 days. And actually, when I was there, I was like, I need to leave because they had a whole thing going on that, that was above what I normally do,
Right.
But so I had an idea of the photos. I'm like, these are really cool. It's like old school dinery almost, and like a really cool vibe. But I did not understand what they were going to what they were talking about. We're cutting it out. We're making it like tactile. And when it came to me for the first time, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It looks so good.
Yeah.
The picture just invites you right into the book. Mm-hmm. It's and it's got the edges that are
all cut out and
like a tot, like a tater tot.
You feel like you're looking at a plate of tots, and when you realize you're not, you realize, well, I'm gonna make something out of this. And
we also we started when we started our blog, we started blogging about cooking in our tiny home, and so we started doing some of your recipes. We don't eat meat, so we substitute your meat stuff for the Beyond Impossible Burger sausage, all that stuff. So we always still use your whatever you say about meat. We do it, but we just do it in a faux meat way. And I mean, I don't know what it tastes like with the meat, but with what we do, it's amazing. I mean, we're gonna get some questions in a minute because everybody's probably drooling right now. But my favorite's I do love the Tots, but my favorite's the nachos for dinner. And oh my God, I mean, it's like every Friday we're like, all right, let's do a nachos for dinner, and they're all good. They're all so good.
Yeah. It's a very similar idea to Tots. It's like make a pile of chips and put stuff on it, right? And also, to be honest, we do a lot of meat alternatives here. Even though you wouldn't think that from what I post on my website, those are but when we're I'm trying to balance that in other ways, and when we're eating our usual dinners, it's something different usually.
Okay. Well, totally unplanned, but I'm just wondering this as we're sitting here talking about it. With all of the recipe creations you do and the sort of comfort food feel around it, I mean, I'm looking at you and you look pretty healthy. How are you not 500 pounds? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a common question I get, and it's definitely a combination of balance. Like I mentioned, when I'm not blogging, trying to eat healthy in the morning. I also work out a lot.
Okay.
So I try to do a half hour a day, and that's 6 days a week combined with walking Frida. And then also, I mean, I have to be honest, metabolism is of course part of it. And I'm lucky enough to have a good metabolism as well.
You are very lucky.
Yeah.
Especially it just worked out with this line of work, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I want to ask you, because I know that your journey, everybody sort of has a journey of how they started a blog. So were you, and I know you lived in Bermuda for a little bit. I want to know about how you got to Bermuda. How did that happen? When did you start your blog, and what made you just decide you were going to do this and recipe creation and all of that?
Yeah. So I went to school for computer science actually, and I grew up about an hour and a half outside of Boston. My whole life, I'm I'm going to move to Boston, work and be a guy in business, whatever. and computers, that was kind of it for me. So I went to school near Boston, graduated and I worked for like 6 months and I was like, oh my God, this is the rest of my life. Like it took only 6 months for me to start having these feelings. And luckily enough, my school had classes in Bermuda because it's a hub of international accounting.
Oh.
So a few people that I knew and my friends and stuff were going to Bermuda for these classes, and they were like, "Oh, it's really easy to get a job here." So I went, got a job there, and thankfully, a few things. First of all, it was probably like my dream job in computers. It was something that I probably could have never gotten in 15 years working in the United States. So that was cool. But also because the Bermuda lifestyle is a little different, I was able to spend some free time doing my own hobbies. I was cooking a ton, and I was building a website on my own as a way to just practice the type of things that I wanted to do in computers.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Suddenly, yeah, my friend was like, you should combine these two things, because I was just putting whatever onto the website. And they were like, you should start putting the recipes and call it The Food in My Beard. And I bought the domain name that day, started putting some of my recipes up there. And I was really only trying to remember the recipes that I was making, so that if I had friends over, I could reference my own sort of memories of it.
Oh.
And then, you know, the feeling, some people start to like it. It takes off a little bit. This was before Facebook really even. So it was like news feeds and stuff like that, where I was getting a little traction on the website. It was 15 years ago. So I was getting all excited, kept going, kept it up. And probably about 6 years later in Boston, I was able to quit my sort of day job and start focusing on that full time.
That is amazing.
That's a great story.
It really is. I thought you were going to say something like, well, when I was in college or whatever, I worked in restaurants, and, you know, you were kind of all about that sort of lifestyle. But no, this is even better.
No, I mean, I did some restaurant work. I worked at coffee shops, and then when I was transitioning from like working full time in computers to working full time on my blog, I also worked at a burrito shop for about 3 years, which was an interesting experience. I helped them open, and I created all the recipes for them. So that was where I kind of really dug in a little deeper.
A burrito book would be really good. You should do that.
I'm going to say that falls right in line with nachos and tots. So
It
you
does.
just sort of throw on the burrito whatever you want to.
Yeah.
Well, there is actually a page in the nacho cookbook that says, like, by the way, all these are basically from my burrito shop, and you can kind of like use this guide and like all the different recipes to have a fun burrito night.
Oh yeah.
Did you do that? I didn't know that.
I know the tots book.
Yeah, the nachos one. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. So the tots book was the first one, right?
There's actually one more called Stuffed. That was my first cookbook.
So Stuffed was the first one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all one thing stuffed inside of another thing.
Okay. Okay.
I had a lot of fun working on that one, writing that book, but being a first book, and kind of like, it was an interesting time of publishing where a lot of publishers were sort of leaning on new bloggers to kind of like get content out there. So,
gotcha.
You know, I'm proud of it, and it's fun to look through. But Tots was my first in a more sort of modern era with a really, really amazing publishing company.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, they maybe their PR group or something, or their marketing did a really good job, because that's how we found you on CBS.
Yeah.
We're thankful for that. Okay, so that sort of explains how you got into the cookbooks. And so when you are, you know, when you're at home, and you talked a little bit about your cooking at home, and do you just kind of, I envision it this way, right? I envision that you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, I could put that together. I could put this on this or whatever. I mean, how do the recipes come to mind? I know that we've seen some of your videos where you just kind of, you end up throwing some things together that you have. Is that how most of it works?
Yeah, it's a lot of times. It is funny because I do wake up in the middle of the night and jot some stuff on my phone for sure. But it is just like, it's usually I'm eating and I go, oh, wow, this like has a lot of similarities to this other thing. So it'd be cool to put them together in a unique way. So then I have to say, okay, like, if I'm making a burger taco, is this going to be a burger that's like taco flavored, or is it going to be a taco that's burger flavored, or is it going to be somewhere like in the middle? And what ingredients can I like pull from each different category to make this sort of like a true combination of the different things?
It sounds like a lot of fun.
It totally does.
Yeah.
There's a recipe, and I can't remember which one it is now. We've done it several times. I think it's like a burger nachos one because it has ketchup and mustard in it.
Yeah. Not burger. So yeah. So same thing. Like nachos a lot of times have ground meat on it. Burger, ground meat. Like so like how can I translate these burger ingredients to? I try to like replace. So if you're thinking about it, you're like, oh, pico de gallo is on nachos a lot of times.
Yeah.
Well, tomatoes are on burgers a lot of times. So an onion is also in pico, and then jalapenos. But what if I put like lettuce and pickles into the pico? So then it suddenly like has more of a burger vibe to it.
Oh gosh, it's so good. It's so good. I'm so excited about all of this. Okay, so I also want to make sure your books are amazing and everybody should go get them. But I wanted to talk about your blog too, because we actually saw this week, and I don't know how long it's been there, but I know that I just saw it this week, is the gnocchi pasta salad.
Yeah, that's brand new.
It is brand new. Okay. So we looked at it, I think a couple of nights ago, and I was like, I mean, sometimes I can look at stuff and go, yeah, that looks really good. And sometimes you look at things and you just feel like I have to do this right now. So for that, is that another one of those? Because I was like, gnocchi, is that like he's in an Italian sort of mindset? And then you talked about different kinds of pasta salad around the US that you could substitute the stuff out. So something like that, that's completely, I don't know. It's just completely something I would have never thought about. If you can use that as an example and tell us how that one came to be.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times where I think I'm taking gnocchi and I'm thinking like, okay, it's potato and flour. So what, similar to the tater tot book, I'm like, what are potato recipes that I can use and swap out gnocchi for the actual potatoes? I've done this probably like 8 or 9 different times on my blog over the years. And I was actually surprised that I hadn't done it with potato salad, to be honest. So I was sitting there thinking like, what can I do with pasta salad? And then I thought of gnocchi, and I was like, okay, let me do a cool pasta salad with it. And then I was like, wait, it's mostly potatoes. And then I went back in time almost to when I was doing that more with gnocchi, like loaded gnocchi or gnocchi gobi was a fun one that I did a long time ago. And I'm actually going to revisit soon.
Okay.
And I thought of those times. I was like, okay, no, instead of trying to make a cool pasta salad with the gnocchi, I should be focusing on making potato salad with the gnocchi instead.
Oh man. Well, it's on our list to get the stuff for this weekend. We're going to try to make it this weekend and see how we do. I mean, I feel like we probably can't mess it up, but I think it'll be good no matter what we do to it. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think
And I think a lot of my recipes, I encourage people to like do it your way, because when you're talking about comfort food, it's really about what you think of. I don't think there's a real thing of comfort food. I think it's like what makes you happy. And I think like for me, like one of my biggest comfort food is ordering Thai noodles and ordering them, not making them or anything like that. Sitting on the couch, ordering it, watching a movie or TV show, and like opening the container and eating it right out of there. And that's like the biggest comfort food to me. So
yeah,
when there's a recipe like this potato salad, you have to make it like thinking about the potato salad you like, not just the potato salad I like, and then turn it into your own comfort food.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I know. I feel like the books really do emphasize that a lot too, the do it your way kind of thing.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's also a way for me to cover myself and be like, don't just follow my in case you mess it up. And it's like, now it's on you, buddy.
Yeah. You're providing a template, and from there it's all up to you. Yeah.
There is there's a recipe, and I can't pronounce it. We've done it a few times. The tot.
I think I was looking at it last night. It's
apparently a lot of people know what this is. We don't. We didn't know what that was. Not using tots. It's like the tot. It's like a long word. We've done it. We even put it on our blog. We made it meatless. Feels like it's like a tot and then SCHU. I can't remember. Or T. Oh gosh. Here it is.
There.
Tot shakshuka.
Oh yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah, it's like a Middle Eastern baked egg dish. So like you'll crack the eggs right in there and let them cook in the tomato sauce. Yeah. So I mean, that one I really just like added tater tots on the top.
Okay. Well, we did it where it was because we said made meatless. You must put meat in it. Did you see that?
There may be like a merguez sausage in there.
Well, anyway, we made it and we put it on our blog and said, okay, we have this book from Dan Whalen and we're going to try to do this. It was so popular and people were like, oh, I've had that, but whatever. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. So my whole point is here, you're also educating us in the food world. Because we had never heard of that Middle Eastern dish before, but now Jer is an expert at our way of doing it. So I guess another question of mine, you were talking about at home and all of that. What does your wife think of your food in your cookbooks?
Well, she loves it, first of all, but also, like, as you know, the food on my blog and everything is aggressive.
Yeah.
And compared to like what we normally eat for dinner, right? So a lot of times she'll, like, if I'm cooking during the day and she's working, you know, and it's like a little much to pop in at 11 a.m. and be like, hey, here's a bacon wrapped hot dog wrapped in a taco or whatever. So we've learned to like balance that, but also like you both, we both are very online people, and we both work in the industry, so we also try to balance that sort of work life and public blog life and dink life, as you were talking about last week. But I did listen, and correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't mention one of my favorite ways that people have said that recently is dinkwad.
So my mom texted me with that. Yes. I didn't tell you that, Jared. My mom, she's our biggest supporter. So after it, she sent me and said, you two are dinkwads. And I go, what? And I said, oh, you're funny or something like that. And she was like, no, you are dinkwad, dinks with a dog. And I go, is that a thing? So I had never heard of that before before my mom told me, but I guess it is a thing.
Yeah, so I only heard it a few weeks ago, but yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought up that, and I didn't know that your wife is online and digital and all that. So I would love it, because we do talk about this a lot on our podcast. It's just our journey sort of started with us just being completely burned out, and that's how we made our lifestyle change. So and again, we talked about in our show about being dinks, that one of the disadvantages is you don't have a child who can take your attention away from work. So with the work you do, especially being in the kitchen and all of that, and if you're both online, and how do you set those boundaries? What are ways that you protect that from not getting burned out from it?
Yeah, I mean, it ebbs and flows, right? I mean, right now I'm having the best time posting. And a year or two ago, I was like weird about it. Also, I'm like naturally introverted, and I had fought against that my whole life, kind of, and really put myself out there and pushed myself through college and afterwards, and being a public persona, right?
Yeah.
But I would say the pandemic like brought a lot of those feelings back for me in a big way. So you do really have to balance. And I would say pre-pandemic, we would have trouble, and we would always be like taking videos of our food when we go out to eat and stuff.
Yeah.
And since then, we haven't really had much trouble. We both have dialed back probably almost too much. And I'm really trying to like put myself out there a little more again, and be posting more in stories and wherever else you have to post these days all the time, you know?
Yeah.
But I have been really enjoying just like working on my recipes and sharing them, because the way social media is set up right now, which we all know it changes every 6 months or whatever. The way it's set up right now is helpful for me because I create things that are often like viral type content that you want to send to your friend. And so I was having trouble getting out there a few years ago because like the social media wasn't really set up that way as much. And now it is. So I'm having a lot of fun because a lot of people are seeing my stuff again. So that's been great.
It's interesting to hear you say that because so many people complain about and you're going to complain either way, right? People are going to complain.
Right,
but I feel like a lot of people complain, oh, my stuff's not getting out there.
Algorithm,
the algorithm, so to hear you have a positive spin, we have a positive spin of social media, and that we feel like during COVID, it sort of helped keep us, I don't know, more social, and it really bothered us to not. So I think it really helped us to stay connected to people where I think otherwise it would have been really detrimental for us to not have any connection to anybody. So I like hearing that, a little bit of positive about it. I'm curious, do you, I mean, I know as a blogger what goes into blogs, and I can't even imagine then also now pulling in content of where you have developed recipes to also pull in there. And I know you've had kudos from, Rachel Ray and Guy Fieri. And I'm just curious, are you fully accepted in the food and culinary world? Or are there some people who are like, oh, you just, whatever, this tot book, which, we're not like,
no, I get it. Yeah,
I'm just curious if that happens to you, because you get haters and trolls everywhere. But I'm just curious in your world, how that goes by.
Yeah, I feel like when I was starting out, it was a lot of sort of like weird, misplaced hatred towards bloggers. And even more than that, I have always done mashup cooking. And so like whatever you call it, fusion, mashup, whatever, like people were hating on that so bad, like 10 years ago or something. And now it's like what everyone is doing. The most recent viral thing was like this smash burger taco that like is now on that guy made that 3 months ago, and now it's like on restaurant menus and stuff. It went so viral.
Wow.
So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting, the change. And I think bloggers, are fully accepted in the whole food world for sure.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that it's that way. I feel like I'm friends with a lot of just bloggers who predominantly talk about food or ways to simplify food at home and stuff. And they're nowhere. I mean, I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm just saying that like they don't have books and they're not on a level where you recognize like you are, but they will say that they get a lot of trolls and stuff just about how they shouldn't be speaking about this because they're not in the culinary world. And
I mean, trust me, I get that. I like to share some of the crazy comments I get every day. I feel like anytime, especially I mentioned like things that go viral, like anytime people are seeing it that are outside of the window of like, they know what I do, then their first instinct is to be like, you're an idiot. What is this? Like, I mean, I could tell a million examples, but I recently followed there's like a new trend where you chop everything in a sandwich. And so I did my spin on like a chicken parm in that way. And that's the other thing. I don't usually follow trends. I try to like make the trends, but what is popular right now is following the trends. So I could do 10 videos of an original recipe and get a certain lower number of views. And then I do one of the trend ones and it gets high views, and all the comments are, why is everyone doing the trends? Make something original. I'm like,
you're like, go look.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have a million original things. The only reason you're seeing this is because it's a trend. It's just like movies right now. People are like, why is it all IP? Why is it all like franchises? It's because the original movies come out and no one goes to see them.
Right. That's true. Well, speaking of movies and TV and music and some of the arts, we noticed your passion for indie rock shows and local breweries. You're having a beer now. I'm curious to know what beer that is.
So I'm checking out the Georgia beers now that I'm new here. And this is Pontoon Brewing.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Pontoon Brewing?
I have no. I
Okay.
have not.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
So would you say that these have a fusion sense into your into your cooking and your recipe developing?
Yeah, I've tried to make recipes and stuff based on shows or movies or whatever else since I started, and that's another thing that was like didn't really get any traction at the time, and now one of the biggest food bloggers of all time is because he always makes the stuff from TV, binging with Babish.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So like,
interesting.
yeah, but my sensibilities for music and TV and stuff is like a little offbeat. So maybe that's why it doesn't resonate as much, because I'm doing a thing from like some obscure show from 20 years ago or something, right?
Well, speaking of pop culture, every time we do a tot recipe from, I'd say almost every time, I want to say every time we do a tot recipe from your book,
I know where you're going with this.
okay,
Yeah.
we'll post it on our stories, and we always put Napoleon Dynamite with it. Always.
Yeah, love it.
And of course, you talk a lot about that in the Tots book too, which was an immediate appeal with the Tots book. That you talked about that, and it's like it is hard to think about Tots ever since that movie,
and not think about Napoleon.
Exactly.
Not think about
yeah. It's funny. This morning, I'm walking Betty White, and I'm on the phone with my mom, like I always am, and she's just kind of asking me about my day, and she goes, "Oh, who are you?" I said, "Well, I have a podcast interview today. We're really excited about it." And she said, "Oh, who is it?" And I said, "So it's Dan Whalen. It's the guy that has all those cookbooks." When she comes, she looks at your cookbooks, like she'll go through them. Because we don't have a lot of books, but we have, your cookbooks. And so she said, "Oh, that Napoleon Dynamite guy." And I said, no. And then she goes, "No, like every time you post it, the Napoleon Dynamite tot guy." I said, "Okay, yeah."
I'll take that.
Sure. So a couple more questions, but before we get into that, it just made me think about people who know each other in this world. I'll just put out there that we've said this before, that when we ask people to be on the podcast, we are fully ready for people to say no. Okay. It's probably just like the imposter syndrome in us. But we were totally ready for you to say no. And we noticed probably maybe a year ago that you are friends on Instagram with Alvin Wayne. And so we were going to use Alvin Wayne. If you had said no, we were going to be like, "Okay, Alvin, do you know him? How can you connect us?" So I want to know how you know Alvin Wayne.
And now I want to know how you know Alvin Wayne.
I'll tell you if you tell me first.
So my wife worked at apartment therapy for a while. So she met him through there, and they've become really close, and still are. And I cooked a dinner party at his house and everything. So.
Oh my gosh. You're lucky to have been in his apartment that we love.
I know. It was an honor for sure. Yeah. We went twice.
Oh, that would be like a dream.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you. First of all, he was our very first guest on our podcast.
Oh, wow.
And I was fully ready for him to say no. But let me tell you a story about that, and then we're going to finally move on.
No, I have time, so don't worry about it. Also, he's the best, so we could talk about Alvin all day.
So I think I ran up because of our tiny living, small living stuff. He came across, I think it was the apartment therapy piece that they had done, saying that he lives in this really small apartment. And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love this." And he is great with engagement with his community. So I said something about how I just really admired, what he had done. And he started commenting. Okay. Fast forward, things open up in New York City right after COVID. And my mom and I were going to New York. And I don't know. I hadn't even had anything to drink, I don't think. I don't even know what inspired me to do it. But I sent him a message, and I said, "Hey, I'm coming to New York with my mom. Is it too forward to ask if I can come see your apartment?"
Wow.
Okay. So he was like, "No, we can do that." And I was like, "What? That's crazy." So anyway, long story short, we had kind of worked it out. He ended up having a shoot in his apartment that day, again, from some other brand that he was working with. I can't remember. And so he always says, let's reschedule. We haven't done it. But when he was on the show, I said, now look, you should not make a habit of telling people yes, that they can come to your apartment.
Yeah.
But we did see it. We were totally gonna ask him to talk to you if you had said no. So I'm glad that you said yes. Okay. So I think because we think that anything that makes our life more joyous and positive, we call them a spark in our lives. So to us, you are a spark in our lives. And so I would love if you could maybe give some advice for either aspiring food bloggers or recipe developers or someone who's listening to this and going, I think I have this idea, but I'm not sure people like it. It's kind of out of the box. Like, do you have any advice for people like that?
Yeah, I mean, when people ask if they should start for me, I say yes. Like, don't wait until it's good. Don't wait until it's perfect. Don't even wait until it's like okay. Just start posting it. That's it. You can delete it later. Like when I started my website, I thought I was too late into blogging, and that's 15 years ago.
Wow.
I thought all
You're
the
an
good
OG.
blogs were established already. And
You're an
my
OG
first,
blogger.
Yeah, my first blog post was making pasta, and I had a tiny apartment in Bermuda, and I had pictures of the pasta drying on my bed sheets. And like I was taking pictures with a cell phone camera, not like a smartphone camera from 2023. It was 15 years ago, a cell phone camera. So I just say, like, you have to just go. You have to start it, and because you're not going to be good necessarily for a year or two, even if you're like a natural,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's the thing I say. Just get yourself out there as much as you can.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that.
I like that advice.
We similarly have some pretty, I'd say pretty embarrassing blogs from the beginning, but we haven't deleted them. But I do sometimes think, gosh, I hope nobody goes back and looks at that stuff because
but it's fun to see your progress.
It is.
And the fun thing with blogs and podcasts, it's a really kind of a rogue thing. It's like there's not a lot of rules. You just kind of put it out there,
Yeah.
That's what's fun about it.
Yeah, totally. That's great advice. Well, we have our fast 5 questions, and this is just this or that. It's just kind of get to know you a little bit better. Do you want to start or me?
You can start.
Okay. I think we know, but dogs or cats?
Dogs, but I do love cats.
Okay. Yeah, we're the same.
Yeah, we got a big mix. Oh, that's another story for another day. But and number 2, superpowers: invincibility or flying?
Invisibility. Oh. Invincible.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take invincible.
I like invincibility better. Invincibility or
cowardly
or poor self-esteem. No, it's okay. Invisibility or flying?
That's hard, but I think I'm going to take flying because I don't want to fly in airplanes anymore. I'll just get there myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that one too. Okay, number 3, beach vacation or mountain getaway?
Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a New England guy. I like to go to like a cool cabin and with my friends and just light a fire and make some dinner for everyone.
Okay.
I do snowboard, but I haven't in a while. And the past few times I've gone to a mountain trip, I bring my snowboard and don't even take it out because I prefer the après ski better than the.
Oh, okay. Okay. As Beatles or Rolling Stones. And
My answer to that is Outkast.
Wow, that's awesome.
I do like the Beatles, but there's been a funny internet debate recently that Outkast is better than the Beatles.
Oh, I've not seen that.
And so I think it's very funny, but also they were my favorite band growing up and being now in Atlanta and kind of like.
Oh yeah. And I think well, I might be wrong about this, but doesn't Big Boy like have some businesses in Atlanta? I mean, I know he had his dog thing, but does he have a lot of businesses there? Yeah.
I'm not sure about a lot, but there is some.
Okay. Well, the last one, and we ask this of almost everyone, but we think it's so important for you, is ketchup or mustard?
Mustard.
Okay.
I only like ketchup on French fries. I will not eat it in any other way, on a burger, on a hot dog, anything.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
I love it
Okay.
on French
Yeah.
fries, but only French fries.
Okay.
Yeah, hot dogs are not made for ketchup. Strictly mustard. That's right.
Okay. Well, the question that we do ask everyone, and we would love to know your answer, is Dan, what does a life well lived mean to you?
I was thinking about this a lot because you mentioned that you asked this, and I just feel like the moving from city to city and being with my wife and my dog has just been like such a wonderful experience. We just try to like you, we try to follow the adventures and live in an exciting, unique way. And being here for only 2 months so far, we've already made some friends. We've put ourselves out there and like gone to some really cool events. And it's hard to like put words, I think, to what living a full life is.
Yeah.
But to me, just like the time we've spent here already in the past few months, not only did we just move here, but we also took a trip to Toronto with our friends from Columbus, Ohio, and saw Beyonce there.
Wow.
Like, I mean, you can't, and that was within the 2 months of moving here. And we also had a trip to Seattle for work, but we saw a bunch of people we knew, and had to go back to Boston for something as well. And you don't want to overdo it. Obviously, it's a lot, but it just feels like it's been really full for sure.
That's great. Dan, I think if Shannon got to go see Beyonce, she would never leave the house again after that. That's life fulfilled, right?
I'd say that's
it's not too late. It's not too late. The tour just started.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you want to say tell them who you're seeing this weekend?
This weekend, and I'll tell you, my fear is as I'm getting a little bit older, I have pit tickets, and I'm a little nervous about it, is Post Malone.
Oh, wow. It's also probably a huge place too.
Yeah, actually, his summer tour is like in amphitheaters. So it's not as huge as like a stadium or anything, but I'm nervous for a couple reasons. Number one, I know it's gonna be super hot because here it's in the 90s and it's gonna be super hot that day. And we're gonna be out, an outside amphitheater in the pit. Number two is I tend to get a little temperamental when I get hot. And if a bunch of people are around me and they're trying to get in front of me and all that, I'm a little bit worried that it's going to be a thing. But I'm going to try to enjoy it. My sister and I are going. And so, Jerry is a fanboy. I'm a fangirl. I'm definitely a fangirl about the things I love. And so that's why when you came on, we were like, we are a fanboy and fangirl of you. We're so excited. And you are so inspirational. And your books just bring so much happiness to us. And so we're just so thankful that you took the time and thankful that you put this content out there because it's wonderful.
Yeah, it is really neat. And I'm thinking too of all the podcasts. Have we ever had the book before we've interviewed the person?
No, like we're especially a true fan.
The books. We have a whole little section of them. That's pretty neat. This is a landmark event for our podcast.
It is. We're just so appreciative.
We do really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm appreciative. It's been really great.
Well, we want to make sure that if you could please tell our audience, and we're going to link all this stuff down in the show notes, where they can find you, how they can access your books, all things Dan Whalen.
Yeah, all my books are in most places that you can buy books, but obviously Amazon is the easiest and best way. And I'm on most social media as @TFIMB, which is the initials of The Food in My Beard. And right now I'm doing a summer series called Buns Out, where I am trying to stretch the limits of what can be a bun for a burger. And it's been really fun.
Yes, I'm so excited to see more about that. And I'll tell you this real quick too. We have a plethora of tomatoes in our garden this year. And the one thing I thought about for us maybe trying, JR, with our Beyond Burger is when you had the panko on the panko crumbs on the tomato slice or something.
Oh, okay.
I was like, that's such a great idea. We could kind of make that a bun and see if that works for us. So yeah, thank you for making us more adventurous.
Love that.
Okay. Well, thank you again. And we'll link all that in the show notes. And we just appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Well, was Dan pleasant or what?
I mean, like we said in the podcast, Dan has been a part of our lives, whether he knows it or not, since 2018. And our toaster oven, most of the cooking that goes on in our toaster oven is thanks to Dan Whalen.
I think because when we got the Tots, when the Tots cookbook came in, it was we thought it was tailor made for our toaster oven. Like everything about it was like, yeah, let's there's a lot to go into there. We had just moved into a tiny place. And we were doing things small, and
we were
toaster ovens, and
we sure didn't buy new things. So in order for us to be convinced to buy something new, it had to be a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And we bought the Tots book, and wow, what an adventure that has been. But I hold in my hand right here the nachos for dinner, which I had in my hand during the recording. If you go to our YouTube channel, you will see the actual visual podcast. But I'm telling you, like right now tonight, I'm like, we have some Beyond Burger in there. I kind of want to make it into some nachos. I don't know. I'm thinking these caprese nachos would be really nice with a little balsamic, maybe. Mozzarella cheese. I mean, the tomatoes from our garden. What does not sound wonderful about that?
Right. And I know when you get into your NPR voice that you mean business, and I think we do. Caprese nachos.
I mean,
crazy nights.
But we really encourage you, go to the show notes, check out our links to other, like we have some where we have recreated his recipes, and you heard him say that, sometimes he even uses the plant-based meats, and we really love his food. We love the creations he comes up with. He is a fun content view on Instagram. So be sure you check out his Instagram. And I really enjoyed it. And it's like when you meet someone virtually, who you've been a fan of, who could really be a jackass, but he was wonderful.
Oh, definitely. No, he's one of the more pleasant people I've met in a while, and that's neat with what we do to have that opportunity. Yeah, and you don't want the time that Bob Dylan met Woody Guthrie, and he was his idol, and he thought he was kind of a jerk, So yeah, that's a little bit of music history for you.
Or how you remember the time that we didn't really meet Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins, but I think I disappointed him.
Yeah. Well, he was when you're standing on a fire escape on the back of a building in an alleyway smoking a cigarette with a long black coat on, you kind of think you're having a private moment.
And you're not when Shannon Arner's around.
No. No, you're not.
Well, there you have it, guys.
That's a whole nother podcast.
another podcast, another adventure that we'll tell you about some other time.